I'm taking a whole bunch of stuff and turning it into a set of pipes, and I like this part very, very much. I want to make instruments that are going to be around for a long, long time, and when people look at them long after I've gone, they'll get a sense of what I was about as a pipe maker, and what I'm about is providing quality instruments. Originally from Belfast, but I emigrated to Fermanagh in 2005-2006, where I built the house and the workshop, and have been working as a professional uilleann pipe maker ever since. I became interested in the uilleann pipes when a teenager at school, in around 15-16. And then about 1985 or so, I saw a very young piper called Sean O'Potts, who was playing on the O'Reda retrospective, which was a concert to celebrate the life of Sean O'Reda. And he was playing with the Darragh band, a band that had been set up especially for that event. And his pipes and his playing captivated me, and I knew at that point that I had to learn. I didn't get going until I met an old school friend called Pádraig one day in Portrush. He was getting off a train as I was getting onto a train, and Pádraig was he's a fantastic uilleann piper, flute player, composer, and an old school friend. And by accident ran into him and says, "Listen, have to get a set of uilleann pipes. Where do you go?" He pushed me towards a maker called Robbie Hughes from County Down. Got my first set and started taking lessons with Pádraig, and have never looked back. Along with Pádraig, we used to go in and out of the late Sean McGovern's house in St James's Road, just off the Falls Road in Belfast. And Sean kept everybody going with reeds and pipes. He made a number of half sets himself. And at that time, when I was about 18 or 19, 20, Sean would have been in his mid-70s, his early to mid-70s. And getting reeds, I could see, was going to be a problem, because he had arthritis, and he was just generally heading into ill health. And I asked Sean if he would show me how to make reeds so I'd be able to service and look after the pipes myself. And he very graciously agreed, and taught me how to make reeds. Do you know, it's going to sound strange, but I get a sense that he's here with me. Like, why couldn't he be? He's part of my journey. But especially when I'm at the reed bench, because he taught me how to make reeds, and Sean was an exquisite reed maker. I have a photograph of him, and kind of when you're getting the tough, run things past him in my head. And then there are other times that he had a kind of a real wicked laugh, and I hear that, and him looking around thinking, isn't this a tire that you've done this in the hands that you have? He was just an exceptional man to have known, and I feel very, very privileged to have known him and that our paths crossed. I owe so much to the man, and I'll carry him in my heart forever. After Sean had taught me how to make reeds, I found myself working, instead of playing for 5 or 6 hours a day, I was working on reeds 5 or 6 hours a day. So I came to that fork in the road, and the workings and the mechanics of the uilleann pipes really started to fascinate me. But I had no idea where to turn to, and then heard of Finbar McLaughlin through Sean McAloon, and Finbar had been involved in Uilleann pipes and Uilleann pipe making for a lifetime. When I was still at university, I asked Finbar if he would mind showing me how to make the Uilleann pipes, and it was a considerable ask to be very forward, actually, when you think about it, to go into somebody's workshop and ask him to open it up to me. But Finbar is a very, very generous soul, and I spent many hours travelling back and forward to Finbar's, learning everything from how to hold chisels, how to work lathes, how to change bandsaw blades, and he gave me a really, really excellent grounding in Uilleann pipe making. And then around 2003 or 2004, I travelled to Channel, a piping event in Southern California, and was guested by a chap from Fermanagh originally called Gabriel McKenna. And when there, I met a supreme pipe maker called David Quinn, who has a fantastic reputation for the quality of his instruments. He works in partnership with a chap called Benedict Kohler. And again, I'm no shrinking violet. I asked David if he would consider teaching me what he knew. David very generously welcomed me into his workshop. I spent, I think maybe a week, 10 days initially, and then a year or two later, maybe 3 years later, another week or two, a week or 10 days in his workshop, and I learnt an incredible amount. I really got an insight on what a musical instrument maker should be striving for and how to go about it. And he helped me develop, and again, possibly he saw that drive in me to make Uilleann pipes, and he was most accommodating. And in between trips back and forward to David's, I was in email contact all the time with many, many questions, and he schooled me and tutored me and was incredibly patient. I could bombard him with 20 emails a week, and he always had the time.
Chanter, the drones and these pipes and the regs have a great balance together, so it's something I would obviously recommend on this set of pipes. And obviously probably just the tone and the materials, and obviously the materials he's using there is a kind of an imitation ivory. It's very beautiful today now. It's the grain in it, it's just beautiful. And then obviously another wee thing was a big thing for me is the screw on bellows. As many a time I've been playing and the bellows always pop out. I'm sure everyone else has probably had them problems in the past.
The journey for Peter McKenna's set of pipes, if you have a look around the workshop, for example, there are some stocks to your right, and there are pipes that are part worked out in what I call the reed room. You look at the date on those, and the main stocks up there, which carry the regulators and the drones, I think some of them go back to 2012, and certainly the B sets and the C sets that are part worked out in the reed room, I think there are about 25 altogether, and they were started between 2011 and 2012. So Peter's set of pipes would have been in amongst the wooden components, would have been in amongst those pieces of wood that were commenced 10, 11, 12 years ago. So that's where it starts. And the reason why it has to start that early is because wood's a natural material. It moves, it changes. And and those changes are microscopic over time, but they're enough to throw an instrument out of tune. Bores will shift. Very, very foolish if you think you can open up a piece of wood today and sell it in 3 months' time. It's going to cause the player untold amount of trouble because it'll move. Not only you'll physically see it with sticky keys. They'll be depressed and they'll not close back down. Ferrules will drop off. And if that's what you're physically seeing, you can only imagine what's going on internally with the bores. Reed making very much is often described as a dark art, but it really is a dark art, and it's a very, very slow process. And as well as that, because cane is a natural material, just like the wood, guess what? It's going to move and it's going to change. So one day you'll find that, say for example, your back D was incredibly sharp, and you modify it to bring it down in the pitch or to pitch, and then a week later you'll find it's incredibly flat. So you have to have the patience to make a read and make small modifications and small adjustments to it over a period of time, as you do with the chanters and the regulators and the drones. What I'm about to do is I'm about to spin this tenor drone ferrule, and I suppose that you shouldn't really have a favourite child in the process, but I think if you were to ask me what my favourite aspect of uilleann pipe making is, I think it's rolling these ferrules, because I'm brilliant at it. But no, honestly, it's because I feel like I'm getting towards the end. I'm now on the home straight after all the waiting and the modification and the tuning and the throwing of the bores, of the wooden components of the pipes. When I come into the spinning the metal here, it feels like, okay, things are starting to come together. This is when it becomes apparent to me that I'm taking a whole bunch of stuff and turning it into a set of pipes, and I like this part very, very much. So as you see, oops, just a nice dressing of beeswax. Make sure it's well sealed. And this is just I suppose a spindle gouge that you don't really use in uilleann pipe making, that I have commandeered. And what I'm doing is you can hear the initial knock, and then it becomes quiet, so you know that, you hear that? So you know that the tube is conformed. When it's flush with the rest of the tube, it just stops. So I'm getting very close, and there it is, it's moving. And that's exactly what I wanted to do, so it'll be relatively easy removing it from the mandrel. Okay, so I'm just going to move it down and there we go. I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so you can hear bump, 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 and then smooth. And stopping it in between sanding, just to keep an eye on the process to make sure nothing is going wrong. Okay. I was taught this process by David Quinn, Uilleann pipe maker to the stars. Okay, so I'm now ready to go onto the buffing machine. It's an enormous thing making a set of Uilleann pipes, especially the way I approach it. I follow the serene masters of the 19th century, the Kenna, Egan, especially Morris Coyne. Very, very taken with Morris Coyne's work. So I find that to make a proper set of Uilleann pipes, reflecting on what has gone before and trying to bring it into the present, I find that I follow their work. Everything's made from scratch in the workshop. And with respect to pipe making, there are so many disciplines that you have to master. There's wood turning, there's metal fabrication, leatherwork, tool making. There are so many aspects of the craft that have to be mastered. You can't start out incredibly enthusiastically and then halfway through think, oh jeepers, making metal pins isn't my thing. You have to stay with it. You have to master all the different aspects. I think it was Jeff Wood who said, you know, the difference between a pipe maker and another craftsman is that a pipe maker makes a set of Uilleann pipes from many, many materials, whereas somebody like a potter or a tailor, for example, makes many different items from one material. And I sometimes think that would be a luxury.
Really beautiful set of pipes. I suppose I came across these pipes with there was a man who came down to me looking for a lesson, and I was asking him about the pipes, and he said they were Martin Preshaw. But I noticed there's real crack of the chanter, and so there's a real bit of bite in it. It's not very hard played. It's quite easy to blow, and the drones are cracking. There's a really powerful tone between drones and a really good balance. I find there's a really good vibrato as well, and I suppose it's a real, to me, it's testament of a chanter sometimes when you lift it off the knee, if you get a volume of sound or if you get a dynamic that comes out of it, and this chanter really has it. The solidity of the drones as well, you can hear every piece of the drones through that. There's none of them silent. You can hear every all very strong.
When you're a younger person, you feel that you can take on anything, and nothing is insurmountable. It's only when you're so much older that you realise the enormity of the task that has been undertaken. Possibly, if I had known the extent and how difficult the work was and the equipment that it needed and the hours that needed to be spent, I don't think I would have done it, if truth be told. But I got so far down the cul-de-sac and there was no reverse, so I had to just keep pressing ahead. My attitude towards the pipe making business was, if there was any spare cash, it had to be reinvested. I had to build up machinery in order to do things better, to learn and to improve, and to make sure that I had the tools at my disposal and the machinery at my disposal to turn out quality instruments. And that takes investment, and it takes commitment. Very recently I decided that it was no longer the life for me. And I looked around and was trying to sell the workshop. And for everything that I have here between cane right through to machinery, the conservative figure was around £100,000 of what's been built up over maybe 15-20 years. That takes a lot of self-belief. And for a while my self-belief dissipated, but I'm now back in full swing. And I realised, no, I'm not wasting my time. I'm following a path that I'm supposed to be following. But I had a lot of doubts about the quality of my work. I was wondering, why do I not have a 10-year waiting list like everybody else? When, in truth, I don't think any maker, apart from maybe one or two, have a 10-year waiting list. I think we're all living hand to mouth, and that's difficult. So it was my wife who, over a period of time, kept insisting that, you know, I'd put too much effort in it, you know, we'd gone down the road too far, we couldn't stop, we had to keep ploughing on. And that she sensed that there was momentum gathering around what I was doing, more so than I did, because I couldn't see the wood for the trees. But she got a sense that there was momentum starting to gather, and encouraged me to come back to it. And I spoke to a couple of papers in Ulster to get a sense of what they thought about my work. And one told me he was dismayed when he heard I had stopped, and was delighted that I was back again, and promised me that whatever I made, he'd find a home for. So that's reassuring. When you're in splendid isolation, a small thought becomes a huge one. And I have found that the small words of encouragement have become huge. And I'm certainly finding making Uilleann pipes very, very enjoyable again. I do understand that I put out quite a number of really, really good instruments, and suddenly guys had nowhere to turn to for servicing and things like that, and I think there were a lot of sweaty palms and a lot of anxiety out there, and I suppose I also felt that I'd broken a promise in some way. You know, these guys were good enough to come and, you know, shop with me and spend their money with me, and okay, well, you know, the contract was, you know, here's money, there's a set of pipes, done and dusted. There's more to it than that. I made a promise, I made a commitment to people, you know, that as long as I'm around and fit and healthy and able to do it, I'll look after you, I'll take care of you. It's a very, very, very slow process. It's so slow, in fact, I think I'll become a trumpet maker, because I can just lift a piece of metal and make a trumpet in a day. Done. Finished. Why didn't I become a trumpet maker?